Scott Frost is going for a big-time revival for UCF, and is he going to be able to do it in year two, or at least make strides to it? We all remember year three, the first time around, was really when things stepped up. The rebuild wasn't as massive. They are in a tougher conference now, and we'll dive into all of those talking points. Did they upgrade from a roster perspective? Are they looking better than they did in 2025? For those of you new around here, my name is Colin Bashingle, your host here at Bash's College Football Show. If the audio does sound a little weird or a little different, maybe different for the better, I changed some settings, and I'm obviously not going to hear it till the end of the video. Unless the audio is really, really bad, I'm not going to re-record this, but if it is worse, then I will change around the settings again. So just a little disclaimer there. But yeah, if you guys like the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a thumbs up. Every single like that you give this channel helps it grow, helps it pop up to the recommended pages, and within search engines be closer to the top of the list. So we're going to be talking about this UCF team, and last year was a very interesting year for them. I mean, it was year one, kind of a transition year, and it was within the Big 12, and the Big 12, of course, higher level of football than what they were playing. They played teams like Texas Tech and Houston last year. I believe they also played BYU. Yeah, and they lost to all those top teams. Just to be clear, like an ugly win against Oklahoma State's not going to impress anybody. An ugly win against Jacksonville State week one, not going to impress anybody. But the one game, even in a loss, that was the most impressive was when they did go toe-to-toe with Houston, and that game was back and forth. It was a space game, the moon game, whatever they call it down there, and they played very, very inspired football in that game. They looked really good, came out guns a-blazing, and they were all over Houston early, and Houston ended up rallying late. They showed a little bit of signs, but generally speaking, what you didn't get out of UCF last year was really dynamic ability to throw the ball. And are they going to be able to improve on that? Well, we'll talk about their roster preview, and it really starts with the quarterback position. And look, this team as a whole, their returning production is 29th in America, 61%, and it accounts for transfers this year. In previous years, it hadn't. So being pretty good in the transfer portal, that was important for UCF. They ended up getting two guys at quarterback. They got Keon Jenkins coming in from FIU, but the guy who's expected to be the starter is the more familiar name, Alonze Barnett, who comes in from James Madison. You expect him to start? Not really too sure about the receivers he's going to be throwing to be quite honest with you. I mean, you're talking about Wayden Charles. He was a kid that showed, again, some of the flashes, came on late in the year, and he's going to have to take a major step up this year. I mean, he was only a freshman last year, but there's a little bit of an expectation on him. Dwayne Thomas Jr. as a redshirt senior, previously of Charlotte, played his first year last year. He's also really going to have to be an alpha. They also brought in a transfer in Jonathan Bibbs from Louisiana Monroe, and this one, the talent flashes again, but the production is just not there on the field. Can they extract that out of this young kid transferring in? I do really like Dylan Wade, by the way. Their tight end, Dylan Wade, really, really good mismatch in the throw game. I believe he was second on the team when it came to receiving yards at 523 last season, and he had 5 touchdowns. He was second or third. And look, their running back room, too, looks pretty good. More commonly known name is going to be Duke Watson coming in. He was Isaac Brown's backup, but one of the better backups within the ACC, certainly, but maybe in the whole country. He was just behind one of the best running backs in America and Isaac Brown. Duke Watson, when he played and when he got his reps, really good. This is a chance for him to compete for a starting job. Landon Chambers is the other guy that they brought in from the portal. And Landon Chambers comes in from Central Arkansas. 1,200 yards there, much lower level of football than what you're going to get from the Big 12. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. But with that being said, we've seen guys come from the FCS level, have success, and immediately shine or be a good player. I think of Des Reed, for example, who came from Western Carolina with Kenny Bell, and he shined for Pittsburgh for the last couple of years. So it's possible that Chambers is a really good player for them. And then when you talk about the offensive line, this is really where the transfers come in. Only one returning starter, and that's Preston Cushman at the right tackle spot. Now, the rest of them, they're going to be replacement players, essentially, all transfers over here. They have Tyler Gibson, who played tackle. He's moving into guard. And then they also have Henry Tabansi coming in from Buffalo. Not going to know too much about these guys, obviously, being – a normal human being, but these guys, smaller schools, granted, but they're going to be guys who have a lot of experience, and that type of experience is going to be really good with an offensive line, but the lack of continuity could be a worry. So this offensive line, not saying it's a big question mark like it's going to be bad, but it's a question mark on whether or not they're going to be able to gel together and be a strength of this team. They easily could be. And you see some situations where they go transfer portal heavy on the offensive line, and they're just able to mesh, especially after the first month of the season. On the defensive side of the ball, I really like what they did in the portal as far as building D-line depth out of older players and younger players. You look at Bruno Dahl, he's going to be a really good upperclassman. Ken Talley also coming in is a really important piece for them to have. And then also they improved the interior of their defensive line. They got younger in their 3 deep. Jesse Harold, or L.A. Jesse Harold, that kid, talented profile, recruiting services liked him coming out, did not play a whole lot last year. I'm trying to remember his school. I believe he went to Florida State. Okay, I checked. We're cheating over here. Sorry. Anyway, so you're talking about D-line depth being improved, and on that front end, you got guys who played a lot of college football, including a transfer like Ken Talley, who I expect to be an impactful player. Now, you look at the linebacker position, returning starter and Lewis Carter. He's going to be paired together with Tackett Curtis. Now, this is really the last shot for Tackett Curtis to make an NFL name out of himself. A highly ranked recruit coming out, went to USC, transferred over to Wisconsin, and his final stop is here at UCF. Can he shine for this team, and can he put himself on NFL draft radar? When you're talking about this secondary, I really like the fact that they bring back a couple of guys in this back end that played a lot of football last year. And you look at Jaden Bellamy, played a lot of football for this UCF Knights team. Antoine Jackson played a lot of football. That's going to be really crucial for them. They also have Damari Henderson back there, the Braden Marshall, another player who played a good bit last year. They brought in one key transfer. Well, really 2. There's 2 safety transfers battling for one spot, but one kind of sticks out to me more. I like Ty Bertram. I watched a little bit of it preparing for this video, a little bit of Harvard football, not only to prepare for this, but also, Jaden Craig. It's pretty good. It's just cannot translate to this level. And if not, they have Caleb Flagg there too. So they added 2 at the same position. One of those guys are going to start. Both of them are going to play. I'm excited to see what it looks like. This defense ultimately is going to be improved specifically against the big boys because they're going to be able to match up simply for the fact that they're not going to get fatigued. They're going to be able to rotate players in and out of the lineup on the front line. So roster is looking much better for my estimation with UCF, but their schedule, on the other hand, look at this. Look at this schedule. Bethune-Cookman, not going to scare anybody. Georgia State, not going to scare anybody. A road trip at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's going to be a very interesting team to keep an eye on. Mason Heinschel's back. But they also lost a good handful of players, specifically on that offense. Kenny Johnson transferred to Texas Tech. Desmond Reed off to the NFL. How are they going to replace that? Well, we could get maybe our first big answer on that in week 2 against UCF. The conference schedule is pretty brutal. You talk about TCU early in the year, and then on the road at Houston, on the road at Oklahoma State, who's not going to be the same Oklahoma State they were last year. BYU is your return trip at home. Watch out for the Cougars, man. They're really experienced, really veteran. Second year for Bear Bachmeier. They're going to be really good. Baylor, They have talent still. Their offense has been high-flying the last couple of years with defensive questions. What happens if Dave Aranda figures out that defense with DJ Lagway at quarterback on offense? At Kansas is going to be very tricky. Lance Leipold, really good coach, got Andy Koldenicki to come back. Arizona State, don't sleep on Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham, one of the best coaches in this conference. Then they play Iowa State, and then they play Colorado on the road. So a little bit of a taper off, weaker November than what they have in October. But October to me just seems like a gauntlet within conference play, because you're talking about Houston, BYU, Oklahoma State, these three teams back to back to back with a bye thrown in there. All three of those teams are expected to, at the very least, be very competitive at the top of the conference. I think that this is a pretty tough Big 12 schedule. Obviously, in the grand scheme of things, if you were to rate the schedule like I did with Florida, this is probably like a 3.5, 4 out of 10 when it comes to its actual toughness. If you're talking about like preseason top 25 teams, most people would tell you there's probably 2 or maybe 3 on this schedule. So it's not the most brutal gauntlet. When I say that, SEC fans will scoff, Big Ten fans will scoff, but for what the Big 12 is and for what UCF's current program state is, if they're trying to build a little bit of program momentum, this schedule is not necessarily the friendliest. So we're going to get straight into it with a win against Bethune-Cookman. They shouldn't have a problem. There's not a ton going on that opening Thursday night. I'm going to get my eyes on this game for sure. I'm going to be more interested in UCF than I was last year. At Pittsburgh, going to be a really tough game. I just trust Pittsburgh a little bit more. There's some unknown and some mystery with Pittsburgh. Maybe when I look at them a little bit closer when we get to them, I'm going to fall in love with them more. There's just some sort of a blind faith in what Pittsburgh's got going on over there that makes me lean towards the Panthers there. I think they do beat Georgia State. Look, Georgia State's been really, really bad, and they don't show any signs of getting better. The only way that they get better is if, you play with them on CFP 26 or 27 like I did. I took Georgia State to the playoff. Whatever. It's only happening in a video game. So Georgia State, you're going to lose that game for sure. TCU, I think a lot of people are sleeping on TCU a little bit, overestimating the Josh Hoover transfer. You have Jaden Craig, who was at Harvard, talked about as an NFL draft pick. He went to play for Sonny Dykes to become an NFL draft pick. He's going to be really good. I think this offense is going to be really good. It's going to be a matter of if they could tire out this front for UCF and challenge that depth early this season. I'm going to take TCU, though, to win the game. I have more faith in them. At Houston, very high on Houston. I think they're the better team in this game. I'm going to take Houston to win this game. They are one of the favorites within the Big 12. At Oklahoma State, I'm not as high as some people are on Oklahoma State, but with that being said, what they were able to piece together, I think, is still a little bit better. And specifically, when you talk about continuity, as far as a roster makeup, it's not as much of a mixed bag. A lot of guys came in with Eric Morris. I'm going to take Oklahoma State to get that home win. Not a good start in the first half of the season. They're going to be sitting at 2-4. You don't want to be there, but with the tough start to the conference schedule, I mean, it's unfortunately a reality, even if their roster is improved. But I think it's going to get better from here. And I think the players off of the bye week are going to play some inspired ball. I think they lose a close game against BYU, but that's where you really start to see the fight and the talent and the buy-in to Scott Frost's system really come into play. And you're going to see it come to a head when they're going to play Baylor at home. Baylor at home on a Friday night in the bounce house. Baylor's not winning this game. I don't have enough faith in Dave Aranda anymore. I kind of jumped off that bandwagon, defended him for a couple of years. Now I'm done with it. And as much as I also want to root for DJ Lagway because I think he was unfairly criticized, this UCF team is going to be pretty talented. And if they start figuring things out after that bye week, they play BYU close, they get Baylor at home on a Friday night, you're going to start to see their season turn around. I believe they continue that. No hangover, a little bit of a long week against Kansas. I think that they beat the Kansas Jayhawks on the road to get their 4th win of the season. Arizona State, I think, again, they're going to push them. But Arizona State, I think, is getting really, really slept on. I am taking Arizona State to win this game. I think they're going to be towards the top of the conference. And when we watch this game in November, obviously, I think most people will expect for Arizona State to win convincingly. I actually do think this will end up being a close game, but Arizona State still pulls it out. Iowa State, I don't see it with Iowa State at all this year. Jimmy Rogers, I think, is a decent coach. I'm not sure how he's going to really fit here. And this is a really tough job, especially because Matt Campbell, who was the fabric of the program, took a lot of that fabric with him, most of the fabric with him. This is a complete rebuild. Iowa State should be towards the bottom of the conference like they historically have been. I am going to take UCF to win, which means if they beat Colorado on the road in a long week off after beating Iowa State on a Friday night, they will go bowling in the Big 12. And I think that they're going to do it. I do not trust what Colorado has going on either. I'm a big Dion fan, but quite frankly, what happened last year with the health concerns, I think there's some downstream effects. Some of the talented players that they ended up getting, you think of a guy like Jordan Seaton, have filtered out. Marion Miller filtered out. These guys are filtering out, and it's not good for Colorado. I don't think their talent profile is high enough to where they're going to be very competitive. I mean, this game should be good, but ultimately, I think UCF is playing for more and playing for more pride. 6-6, 4-5 within conference. So what I'm seeing with UCF is a little bit of a turnaround this season. You're going to see some of that momentum building for 2027. And as far as being a desirable brand out of the transfer portal, that's ultimately what they're going to be aiming for. The next video we have up is going to be Northwestern. I thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Like I said earlier, hit the like on the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.